Hey everybody, it's me, Oracle Smith. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Quarantine Tuesday. I am here at home. I just finished a wonderful meditation and I wanted to just come on and show up for you and share. This particular video is for anyone who is currently really worried about this coronavirus, feeling kind of out of sorts, not knowing which way to go, what to think, where to put your focus, and you're looking for some way to reset your mind, right? Not on all that's going on, but on something else. And you're like, what can I set my mind to? And how can I set my mind during this time? So if that's a conversation that you want to have today, then stick around. That's what we're talking about. And I'm so happy that you're here. Okay, so let's have this conversation about how to really calibrate and align and get focused on something. The first thought that I'll share, and please know that I am not right, I am not wrong, I am speaking from my own truth that is always changing. So, one, I like to always start off letting you know that anything I share is based in present moment truth. A lot of the things that I share come in at the exact moment that I'm having the conversation. So I like to really get kind of my ego out of the way so that when I'm communicating with you, when I'm speaking with you, when I'm sharing anything, that it is as current and as truthful at a higher octave level, a higher level of truth, a higher vibration of truth coming through. So if anything doesn't resonate with you, I do not apologize for that. Understand that I am just doing what's natural to me and believing from where I can see, right? So if our eyes don't align, I understand. I understand sometimes it's just taking time for us to get on the same frequency, and other times it's just not for you right now. And then there's times where it's just spot on and it's like, that is what I was thinking. This is what I came to YouTube for today. So I hope that there is more of that and lesser of the other, but I'm open to it being the reality of what it is. I'm really open to that. It's something about my hand being here and the lighting gets better. So let's talk about, first of all, the state of the energy, right? I am self-employed, and so I'm always at home, really working from home for the last few years, and not as active as I was when I was out, selling homes in Texas. I was in my car all day, working all day with people all day. And now that I am moving more into supporting people in a more personal way through what people call life coaching or pointing, in my opinion, I'm at home more of the time. And so when the quarantine came on, when my daughter, who's a senior in high school, was sent home from school, and that process began, when the question of her high school graduation got on board, when all of these different things that began to, be mandated and shared and become the collective energy, I immediately decided to pull my energy out. I know the being connected to the initial chaos of anything is always a setup for unrest and trauma, right? So, for example, in my own personal journey, I've had a lot of experience with the onset of uncontrollable trauma when something just happens to you, right? I've lost a few family members, very, very close, first generation line family members, mother, brother type situation, aunt, to murder and suicide. And whenever your life happens where you experience these occurrences, like I have, it is no way to really kind of not be in the chaos of that trauma. I mean, it comes and it grabs you, and boom, you're in chaos, you're in trauma, and you can't do anything about it, right? And because I understand, because it's happened to me so many times, the power that the onset of trauma, that initial moment of traumatic crisis coming into your life, because of how powerful that is, it's very important that when we do have the power to choose, that we use that power, right? And so I had the power to choose whether or not I was gonna, keep my head forward and keep my energy in the coronavirus and in that, the onset of the changes as people were responding to them. I remember one morning I went out to get my dog some food, and I sat in the parking lot because I was early at the Target, waiting, and I meditated for about an hour. I mean, they even opened the store and people were going in before I finished my meditation and went in the store. And immediately I noticed all the shelves were cleared. And I'm like, wow, like that wasn't the case yesterday. And I knew something was happening, but this isn't the first time I've experienced that kind of trauma. I've lived through a couple of hurricanes. There's a few other experiences that I've had with collective trauma, you know. But I knew, I was like, nah, you're not participating. You're not going to stick your head in that energy. And so I minimized my social media immediately. I minimized my news intake. When I went to listen, I went very strategically to listen to exactly what I wanted. And I didn't necessarily listen through conversations with friends and family. If I wanted information just to stay abreast, to be aware, I got that information in areas that I trusted instead of the gossip or the communication of feeling an emotion that's attached to the onset of this kind of a trauma or crisis for a collective, right? So now that we're a few weeks into that, about 2.5 weeks into these major changes being put in place, I noticed that because I didn't stick my head into it, that I was kind of a little detached in my thinking, detached in, what I should be doing. I was one of the last people to go get toilet paper. It's funny though, every time I went to get some, I've always been able to find it. Even if it's the last roll on the shelf, I've been able to get toilet paper. So part of that is just an example of not sticking my head in and having all of my needs met, which is where I'm going when we get through this, is the fact that there is a way for us to get all of our needs met without having to keep our head stuck in the energy of it. And I lean forward and I stick my head there because it's like, that's how I feel when I put my energy into the collective crisis of this. When I stick my energy into the coronavirus, the way that we connect to all the people that are talking and speaking and engaged in this is through the mental consciousness, through the collective consciousness. And so me leaning forward and showing that kind of movement is, just a show of when you're tapping into this, it's on a mental level, right? You're tapping into this from a level of the mind. And immediately you're in. I mean, like as soon as you talk about it, as soon as you read the news, as soon as you do anything with it, you're immediately connected to the entire part of it. And depending on from where you connect in, like let's say you're connecting in from a very high place through prayer, you're connecting in through what am I going to do financially, you're connecting into, oh my God, my kids are in my house, you're connecting, how long is this going to be? I need to get outside. I don't want to be alone. I am absolutely alone. I mean, like you connect and you plug into all these different parts of this collective mindset, and that has a lot to do with your experience with it. So a lot of people are connecting in every point of their life. My finances, my children, my time, my ability to resources, what's going to happen to everybody else, what's going to happen to me, what's the government going to do, are they going to help, what is my opinion about that, What do I think they should do? What about these face masks? Should we do this? How am I going to protect myself? Do I have this virus? I mean, it's like this, all of these points, most people are plugging into every single piece and point of energy and connection mentally with this thing. My change that has happened from the beginning, when I just kind of was like, I'm not putting my mind in there, to pulling out, is that I do think that this is something that we should be concerned about at a level of choosing and discerning what we do, right? I am now clear that discernment is required right now, not knowledge, right? What you get online in the news and consuming all of that stuff is knowledge. But discernment, I think, is what's actually going to be what focuses us and what focuses you, and what I'm going to talk about as we continue to go through this process. Now, again, to my point a minute ago, I can say I've benefited from not sticking my mind into it. Like putting myself into that frequency is now a discerning choice so that I can make some clearer decisions. But I mean, I haven't had a lack of resources, right? I am, again, self-employed, selling what I believe people need, but they may not think that right now. I'm selling something that's sacrificable, and when it comes to discerning what you need, my resources come from things that you don't have to necessarily have right now to go through crisis. So, but I haven't been limited in resources. I haven't even been limited in knowledge. Like I got a text from multiple friends 3 or 4 days before they did the shelter in place order for Los Angeles, where I live. 3 to 4 days before that happened, I got texts from multiple friends saying, hey, my military friend, told me that they're going to be shutting cities down. Get ready for that, right? Again, because I wasn't in the energy, I hadn't gone there. I saw the missing toilet paper at Target. It didn't faze me none. It didn't make me go to the CVS and get some. It didn't make me go buy 15 gallons of water. Like, none of that really hit me because I wasn't connected to the mindset that was creating all of that. But when my 3 friends reached out to me and said, hey, you need to go ahead and do this, this, and this, I was able to peacefully go do it. I was able to go to the grocery store and there be nothing. I mean, the first night when I went to the grocery store, there was nothing anywhere to be found, right? I literally was able to get like 2 or 3 things that aren't necessarily on my grocery list, but that would work for the moment, right? Now, the funny part was the next day when I went back, the whole store was restocked. But that initial moment of, wow, people lost their minds today, I didn't feel any of that. I wasn't involved. I didn't put my mind, I didn't give my mind access to the chaos. And so I was able to, go do that the next day. Took me a couple of days, but I peacefully went and collected the things that I need. And my daughter and I here in LA have been great, But I recognized, that, okay, you need to maybe stick your head in and feel this so that you can help, right? You may need to stick your head in. Ignore me rubbing my nose too, guys, because when my nose itches whenever I make videos, especially when I give my body to source to speak through me. I give my body to God to speak through me. And so sometimes the energy that comes in just kind of makes my nose tingle a little bit. I apologize for that it's more of just a tingle on my nose that causes that. But to continue, I said, stick your head in and be helpful. Like, don't just take care of yourself and be in this peace, because my peace isn't because I have a bunch of money, and my resources are exponential. I'm okay, but they could be better. My peace is not because I have this huge support system around me, protecting me. I'm a single mom, and I have been since I was 16. So my circle is my daughter and I. Of course, I have friends and things like that, but not the support system that would be ideal. I definitely would appreciate more, right? But nonetheless, it is what it is. And so it's, it's just me and my daughter. So it's not like I have this big support system. I'm not from LA. And so I'm here, just the two of us, so it's not like there's this huge system, around us. Um, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why the option could have been get into that, see what you can get, figure out. I just decided against it. So now I stuck my head into help and realized, wow, this is pretty serious. This is pretty serious. This isn't a game. I was immediately confirmed by my energy that this is definitely a pandemic. I was immediately confirmed in my energy that I've been a little naive about it. I need to be more discerning, and I need to be safer with my actions. I was immediately convicted in not really having a voice and sharing any of the blessing that I've been given and the peace that I have. And I immediately realized that this is going to be a spontaneous thing. This crisis is going to be spontaneous. It has a mind of its own, and it is feeding off of all of us that are plugged in if we don't plug in with power. So I'm here to talk about that. How do we plug in with power? How do we focus? How do we release ourselves from the chaos? Stay in that, in the collective consciousness of coronavirus. Stay in it, but stay in it, driving it to a containable space, right? I want to plug into it so that I can help guide it with my energy and my thoughts and my focus to a contained space so that it can be controlled and removed and move forward, right? Because if our collective mind is fueling this thing, that means we're the drivers of it, that we have the ability to think, act, speak in a way that contains it and then removes it and moves on, because it's a virus and we know that viruses come and they pass through. So how can we, be a part of helping this virus pass through? Like how can we be a part of helping this virus run its course and move on? And that's, so there's like, okay, how can I be the best version of me and focus while this is going on and experience something great out of crisis, right? Which is what we always realize is the case. People say all the time, if it wasn't for the things that I went through, I wouldn't be who I am today. How can we make this experience with the coronavirus something that you say, if it hadn't been for my experience with that, I wouldn't be who I am today, right? In quarantine, with the basic people around you that you need, how can you refocus so that you can say, this was good for me. This time worked in my favor. This time was exactly what it needed to be for me, right? So let's get into that. Let's begin that conversation of the focus, right? So I was sitting here and I did probably a 3-hour meditation. And in that 3-hour meditation, which is not what I'm recommending, but go for it if you want to, it was fabulous. I really realized and felt into the fear part of my connection with the coronavirus and how it was connecting into the fear in me. And so I spent that 3 hours of meditation time allowing my body to release fear itself. Not necessarily fear for the coronavirus, but fear itself. And in the time of me sitting here doing this, something came forward, and it was, God and Source saying, yes, you have time for this. You now have time to sit and do that 3-hour meditation that you normally don't get to do when your mind says you have this, and this thing to do. Now, you actually can have a 3-hour middle of the day meditation practice. You can sit down and do the things that you want to do without anyone judging you, without anyone saying that you're not doing what you should, without anyone, really looking at you as like you're wasting your time, and build whatever it is that you want to build and create whatever it is that you want to create. This is a time of rest for the creator in you and I, the co-creator in you and I. This is a time of rest, but it's also a time of work. And it's a time of rest because all of the mundane things that we normally have as our responsibilities have been set aside for us. It's been completely set aside. There's no need to worry about having the virus or any of the symptoms until you have the virus or the symptoms. We can just assume that you watching this isn't going to get it. And if you plug into the collective mind saying, I choose to be one of the ones who truly believe I'm not going to get this, then you can relax out of that fear, release it from your body, let it unplug from the fear that already is in you about this, that, or whatever the other things. And you can notice, oh wow, I'm kind of free to move about the cabin. All of the normal things that I normally have to focus on have been set aside for me. Right? Now, people are saying, well, what about making money? What about, the basic needs? What am I going to do about all of that? Well, as creators, guys, I want you to recognize that if you sit down and create something that is authentic to you, it probably is going to make you some money. It's probably going to be something that helps you move on to the next point of your life. It's probably going to be something that allows you to grow. And so if you decide to go ahead and set all of the mundane things down, including, how am I gonna, and the questions that, you can't even think of a solution because, we can't go to work. We can't do these things. So, there's no solution on the end of that question, which makes it a dead end question. Why not ask some non-dead end questions, right? Why not ask, what can I really do with this time? Since the blessing of literally me having to set my whole normal day-to-day life aside, let me create a day-to-day life for myself today. Let me create a day-to-day life for myself right now. Let me create a day-to-day that I can enjoy within this freedom incubator that I'm in. Because this, quarantine is a freedom incubator, right? Like this coronavirus is incubating us to utilize this framing, this feeling of separation, this feeling of control. Let's make that a freedom of you to choose how you move within it, because the structure is in place holding you accountable for your time, holding you accountable to do all the things that you have wanted to do if you could just stay home every day. Like what was it that you would have done if you could just be home every day? Like what would you do if you was just like, what? Just go home for 2 months and everything. I mean, that's what we're doing. See you in 2 months back at work, right? Like what would you really do if you could take that time outside of it being framed by this virus? Well, the virus has blessed us. We can frame using this incubator of this virus, which then also indirectly, without even trying, affects the mindset of the collective around this coronavirus. That incubator is immediately made flexible and immediately, sorry, sit, Dallas.